But Justin, from the very beginning, was so adamant on including them because they're the ones, who made the book see the success it saw. And so it's very important that you capture the things that they loved in the movie. And they involved, had a contest and involved several readers in getting to be there for the script reading, and they were very open and receptive to their feedback. I know that their feedback actually changed some of the things in the script for the better, and I just thought that was brilliant. Who better to tell you how the script is and what they want to see in the book than the readers themselves who've been there from the very
From
beginning.
the outside, Blake Lively looked like she had it all under control. But behind the scenes, she may have been pulling legal strings in one of the messiest and most covert ways Hollywood's seen in years. What started as a quiet, anonymous lawsuit has now spiraled into a full-blown scandal involving secret subpoenas, anonymous shell companies, and a legal chess match that's dragging celebrities, publicists, and major studios into a storm they never saw coming. And the most disturbing part? No one even knew this was happening until it was already too late. The whole controversy began when a lawsuit appeared in the New York court system, but not under Blake's name. Instead, it was filed through a barely known entity called Van Zon, Inc. To most, this looked like nothing, a routine legal filing tied to a business dispute. But digging deeper revealed a shell company that had no real operations, no active presence, and no known public activity. Legal records traced it back to Delaware and California, but it had been inactive in both places, even listed as forfeited in California for failing to meet tax requirements. That's when alarm bells started ringing. Why would an A-list actress need to hide behind a defunct company to file a lawsuit? The answer came quickly, and it was explosive. The lawsuit, which listed only Jane Does as defendants, allowed Blake's legal team to issue subpoenas without ever alerting the people she was actually targeting. One of those subpoenas was sent directly to Stephanie Jones, a publicist with a known NDA tied to Wayfarer Studios, the production company working on It Ends With Us. Stephanie, perhaps fearing legal consequences or assuming everything was above board, handed over private communications, messages involving Justin Baldoni, PR teams, and internal crisis strategy discussions. And she did all this without Wayfarer, or Justin even knowing it was happening. Here's where things get shady, and possibly unlawful. The subpoena was issued just 4 days after the lawsuit was filed. So if Blake Lively claimed she didn't know who she was after, how did she target the exact right person within days? Justin's team sees this as clear evidence of bad faith. They argue that Blake always knew who she was after, Stephanie Jones, and simply used the lawsuit as a backdoor to get around privacy laws and subpoena rules. Normally, a party receiving a subpoena has the right to challenge it in court, but in this case, the people most affected, Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni, and other staff, were kept completely in the dark. Justin's lawyer, Brian Freriedman, has publicly slammed the tactic as a blatant abuse of process. He says Blake's team exploited a legal loophole by pretending to pursue unknown targets, only to go after someone they already had in mind. Legal experts across the industry are echoing his concern, describing the move as super shady, a ruse, and even a weaponization of the court system. Some have suggested Blake's camp filed the lawsuit just to clean up an earlier mistake, when Stephanie allegedly shared confidential information without a proper subpoena. By creating a retroactive paper trail, Blake's legal team may have tried to shield Stephanie from liability and deflect accusations of breach of contract. And yet, until recently, this entire legal maneuver was hidden from public view. Even media outlets like the Daily Mail initially downplayed or withheld key details, failing to name Blake, the shell company, or the true nature of the lawsuit. Only after an independent researcher exposed the truth did the story gain traction. But instead of crediting the original source, the Daily Mail and other outlets spun the narrative as their own discovery. Behind the scenes, PR teams scrambled to control the damage, while Blake's side remained silent, hoping the noise would pass. But the silence didn't help. Once the legal documents surfaced, the damage was already done. Now, Wayfarer and Justin Baldoni are preparing to strike back. Their legal team is considering filing claims for abuse of process, which could include financial penalties, public exposure, and even disqualification of Blake's attorneys. There's talk of Stephanie Jones being dragged into court for violating her NDA, and if proven, she could be facing breach of contract lawsuits herself. And if a judge finds that Blake's legal team knowingly manipulated the court system, It could open them up to ethics violations, sanctions, or worse, professional misconduct charges. Blake's lawyers, of course, are painting a very different picture. They argue that it's perfectly legal to use a lawsuit to uncover the identities of anonymous individuals who may be involved in defamation, harassment, or unauthorized leaks. They insist that Stephanie's messages prove that Justin's camp had formed a coordinated PR strategy to undermine Blake's image, including planning responses to potential harassment claims and protecting his reputation. They say the backlash Blake is receiving now has nothing to do with legality and everything to do with embarrassment. They got caught, and now they're spinning. But critics say otherwise. Legal observers point out that Blake's team only used selected snippets of messages, often taken out of context, to imply wrongdoing. The full conversations, many of which have since leaked, show a much more nuanced story. There's no evidence of any coordinated smear campaign, no direct admissions of guilt, and certainly nothing to support the level of legal overreach now being exposed. At worst, the messages reflect emotional reactions during a crisis, something anyone might have said under pressure, not criminal activity. The court of public opinion, however, has already begun its trial. Many fans feel betrayed by Blake's tactics, especially given the sensitivity of the film's themes. It Ends With Us centers on domestic violence, yet Blake has been accused of glossing over those issues in interviews, focusing more on fashion and her image than the seriousness of the story. Now, with this lawsuit scandal, her critics say she's not only mishandling a social message, but actively using power and privilege to silence dissent. This isn't just a celebrity feud anymore. It's a case study in how wealth, influence, and legal machinery can be wielded as weapons, quietly, forcefully, and without transparency. What's happening here could reshape how Hollywood handles internal disputes, especially as NDAs, PR, strategy leaks, and social media outrage continue to collide in the digital age. And the scariest part? If this tactic hadn't been exposed, no one would have ever known. Blake's legal team could have buried this completely and kept doing it. Now, as both sides dig in, the stakes are higher than ever. Justin Baldoni's team is demanding accountability. Wayfarer wants justice. And the public? They're watching every move, dissecting every message, and waiting to see if this ends in redemption or ruin. Because what started as a behind-the-scenes squabble over a film script has turned into one of the most ruthless, behind-the-curtain celebrity legal takedowns in recent memory, and no one's reputation will come out untouched. Fashion and her image than the seriousness of the story. Now, with this lawsuit scandal, her critics say she's not only mishandling a social message, but actively using power and privilege to silence dissent. This isn't just a celebrity feud anymore. It's a case study in how wealth, influence, and legal machinery can be wielded as weapons, quietly, forcefully, and without transparency. What's happening here could reshape how Hollywood handles internal disputes, especially as NDAs, PR, strategy leaks, and social media outrage continue to collide in the digital age. And the scariest part? If this tactic hadn't been exposed, no one would have ever known. Blake's legal team could have buried this completely and kept doing it. Now, as both sides dig in, the stakes are higher than ever. Justin Baldoni's team is demanding accountability. Wayfarer wants justice. And the public? They're watching every move, dissecting every message, and waiting to see if this ends in redemption or ruin. Because what started as a behind-the-scenes squabble over a film script has turned into one of the most ruthless, behind-the-curtain celebrity legal takedowns in recent memory, and no one's reputation will come out untouched.